Morning for 10 minutes of morning calm. And today we're looking at one that I think is kind of interesting. The idea of what are three ingredients to great relationships. And there are all kinds of different ways we could say this, and there are all kinds of lists that have huge amount of validity to them. And I'm just going to give one context here. And this is a context of how do we take our relationships, and you can think of a deep friendship, a marriage, a relationship with a significant other, and how do we sort of up our game? How do we sort of move it forward? And I talked about this a little bit on this past Sunday, so you could watch the service and learn a little more if you wanted to. But I also wanted to just take some time to talk about another insight around it that wasn't shared on Sunday, and that's this. So we talked on Sunday about how there's this relationship down here. This is the person, and you think husband and best friend, cousin and cousin, sibling and sibling, whatever that relationship might be. And we work at that relationship, and that's really important. And yet, I think about it and I think, wow, probably 95% of our attentiveness goes to this. Are we getting along? And if we're getting along, that's good. And that means everything's okay. And if we're not, that means everything's bad and not okay. Is there truth to that? Obviously, like if we're in a marriage and we're not getting along with our partner, that's not really a very healthy place to be. But it belittles what the second part might be. In other words, it minimizes what the second part would be. So this part's really important. That idea that the sharing the relationship and how that works and how we negotiate things and the give and take of relationship, all that is really beautiful and powerful. But it's all in service to the marriage. So you think relationship down here and then the marriage up here. That's why, as I often share with couples, really good marriages are actually more than just the relationship, because that's where they've worked at this, right? So this is working, not perfectly, but this is working. But there's a bigger purpose to it, and that's where they're looking outward to serve. Interesting little statistic for you that I was sharing with a couple yesterday. This is from Martin Seligman, the Gottmans. Sorry, the Gottmans. They were talking about marriage, some of the statistics they did, and they found out that couples with highly functional relationships, only come to an agreement around over an argument about a third of the time, which is fascinating, right? So in other words, they're not always agreeing at this level, but somehow they've created this really, really functional marriage. And that's because it's looking up and out. Now, the way from a Christian church perspective we would talk about that is this trinity within marriage, and I think it's a trinity within all relationships, actually. And that's where down here is where love and wisdom meet. And you may be a little more leaning towards more being a little more loving person. You may be leaning towards somebody who's a little more heady, but those two come together and they work together beautifully. And the love is pouring into the wisdom is pouring into the love. The both are really working well, not always agreeing all the time. Obviously, if you're married to somebody who's really heady, or you're married to somebody who's a huge heart, at times you disagree because you don't want to have the fifth stray dog in the house or whatever it might be. Like, who knows, right? But we'll have those little debates, and that's all well and good. But the trick is that third part. So we have love, we have wisdom, and we have use. So think of it like a triangle. And this word use, you could really use the word loving service. So we get the relationship, we figure out how to work together better and better. But that's not where we're going to spend 95% of our effort. We're really going to try to spend, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but we're going to try to make sure that it's not just all about our relationship. I mean, that gets, talk about, like, if it's all about the relationship, I mean, is there anything left but drama at the end? Like, lots of drama and lots of, it just doesn't appeal, if it's only just about the relationship. But that higher looking, that where we say, okay, here's the relationship, love and wisdom, and here's the use. This is what we're trying to do. This is how we're trying to serve together. That changes all kinds of things. And the example I used of the couple, I've used it on here before. Again, you have a big argument with your partner over leaving socks out or dishes undone or just not enough attention to the kids or to you or whatever, whatever that argument might be. and they're important. It's important to have those conversations. But you go down and you serve a meal together like at the Ronald McDonald House to kids who are struggling with cancer. It will look very different. It will Things will really start to shift. And that's what we need to consistently do, is always be thinking towards that shift. How does that shift look? How does that shift work? How does that all move forward? Really looking at that as closely as we can, because that really starts to make a difference. So the relationship then becomes the marriage, and the marriage, instead of just being about these two people, it starts to go out like this. Good friendships, the same way. Relationships with a beloved sibling, same way. How do we take this, and how do we continue to serve outward, looking together out there into the world? So that is an idea of what the three ingredients. Again, you could list many on what three ingredients might be. Make sure there's always love in there. There's always wisdom or discernment, good judgment. And then also make sure that there's a service component, that there's something you're looking out there to do into the world that makes a difference. And one my wife and I have coming up, and you might want to actually take part in this. We're both involved with the June Fate Fair, which is happening this week here in Montgomery County, just down the road from where we live here in Bernathen, Pennsylvania. My wife is in charge of the refreshment tent. And if you have any interest in volunteering to work the refreshment tent over the days of the fair, which are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, feel free to hop online and sign up. It really is a lot of fun. Do that with your beloved partner or a dear friend. Really starts to make a difference. It just puts everything in perspective. And Lord knows we need to keep on putting things in perspective. We need to keep on thinking through these things, because that's how the world's going to get to be a better place. And it not only makes the world better, it makes our relationships much, much healthier. So there you go, friends. That's the big context, three ingredients, and hopefully we can all practice that a little bit this week. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shift gears. And we shift gears here. What we're going to do is we're going to ring the prayer bell. We're going to do a little meditation from the Old Testament, a little prayer, and a little blessing, and then we'll say hi to folks on Facebook. So let's go ahead and get started. So let's get a little breath. A prayer. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still and. Be still. Be. Our Father, who art in the heavens, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, as in heaven, so upon the earth. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you, bring you peace, and bring you home. Amen. All right, dear friends, let's give a little cheery hello to anyone who might have joined us on Facebook here. All right, let's take a look and see if we have any commentary here. Oh, Gene writes, oh, how I missed the June Fate. I would volunteer. There, it flipped away. Sorry about that, Gene. I would volunteer in a minute if I lived closer. We're not taking care of my hubby with a broken hip. Well, it would have been great to have you, Gene. It sure is a lot of fun. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. Marcus, good morning to you, buddy. I hope you're doing well. And flipping over here to the other Facebook page. All right, Rita. Good morning to you, my friend. And Rita, it was kind of fun seeing pictures of your grandkids are getting so old, and boy, time just marches on, just marches on. All right, dear friends. Well, I want to wish you all the very best. Have a wonderful day. And a final note here about your very appreciated support.
Like our content, it's funded
Live.
by viewers like you. Please consider becoming a sustaining supporter of New Church Live today.